constant chronic PTSD affects your hypothalamus and your pituitary and pineal glands, which messes up all your hormones in your bodies. It messes up your gut microbiota.
Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Erin Andrus. This is Cleansing the Human Experience. I have a very special guest on today, Melonie Packer. Thank you for being here, Melonie.
You're welcome. Very happy to be here.
I met Melonie years ago. She became my client, and she's done a lot of work in the realms of detoxing mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and I'm so happy to have you. Thanks for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
What led you into your journey of detoxing the self, finding self, and emotionally coming to where you're at today and the awareness that you have today?
Good question. I've been through a lot in my life, a lot of hard things, a lot of trauma. And when you go through hard things like that, you have to keep going. You get up, you put your feet on the floor, and you do what has to be done because you have little kids, because you have to pay the bills. And I got to this point where my health started to just deteriorate. I was getting really emotional. My, nerves were on edge. I started to get super sick. I started to get really shaky.
How long ago was this?
This was probably started about 10 years ago, actually.
Okay, so how many kids had you had at the time?
I had 3 kids and my foster kids.
Okay.
So at the time, I think that's kind of what threw me over the edge.
How many foster kids?
At that time, I had 3.
3. So 3 and 3. So 6 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how old were you?
35-ish.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full-time mom.
Full-time mom.
With 3 fosters.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful intention.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it accumulated, started to become a lot. Mm-hmm. Were you detoxing at this point yet? The 10-day or anything?
I was not.
Okay.
I was not knowing what to do. I was completely overwhelmed. My emotions were so chaotic that I couldn't get a handle on even the things that I knew that I should be doing. I brought the healthy foods in as much as I could, but it was really hard for me to fight my family, to fight the foster kids, and my own, emotional hole, I guess, that I felt I needed to fill.
What was your biggest stress at that time? Just all the children?
Trying to raise them? I had this memory from when I was 5 years old start to resurface.
Okay.
And
what was the memory? Can I ask?
Yes, it was a memory of rape at 5 years old.
Okay.
And I always knew it was there. It was something I just kind of I just knew that I had to go back to. But
as the memory surfaced, you always had the memory. You always knew it was there, but you're like, it's time to face it. You felt it really coming up.
It wasn't super clear.
Okay.
There was enough missing from the memory that I doubted it a lot.
Okay.
And then things started just showing up in my body and in my dreams. And it just got worse and worse and worse until finally, I had more memories and I couldn't deny the things.
Were you talking about it with anyone at that time?
My husband.
Okay.
First.
How was he responding to it?
He was not responding very well.
Yeah. Scared with you,
He didn't know what to do.
Okay.
He said all the things that, you hear: forgive and forget, move on, live today, be in the present moment. But the reality is when you go through something like that, it's like you have cancer and nobody treats it that way. They want you to keep it in the past. They want you to go to a counselor, shut the doors.
They don't want to hear about it
now.
They
don't want to talk about it. It makes them uncomfortable.
And okay, so in talking about the trauma, how old were you when this trauma happened? How old were you in the memory?
When the memory started coming back, around that 35-year-old
But
age.
I mean, how old were you when the trauma was happening?
Oh, 5 years old.
5 years old. Okay. And who was the person raping you?
Somebody in my neighborhood.
Okay.
Somebody that my parents knew, but just acquaintances.
Okay.
And I don't.
Did you talk to your parents at the time?
I didn't have the words to say what happened, but I did tell my mom that I had hit my head really hard. And she tells me that I changed from that day forward.
When you were 5, you hit your head really hard?
When I was attacked, yeah.
Okay. And then, okay, so how did you process that with your mom and when you're older? That's what she told you. That's what she told you happened. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It was hard. I was always dismissed because my grandfather is a pedophile, and he sexually abused all of us, all of his daughters, all of his nieces.
This rape is different from what you're talking about with your grandfather.
Yep.
This is a different trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So you had rape from a neighbor, and then your grandpa was a pedophile. Did he rape you?
He did not, but a lot of touching, groping, all sorts of.
What would he do?
He showed me child pornography to normalize it.
Okay.
He, just casually do things sometimes, like swipe at your breast when he's giving you a hug, or let me massage your legs when we're, after a track meet or something like that. Just crazy things. And then it would get worse. Like, he loved to play a game where we'd rub circles on his belly to help him lose weight, he would say. Okay. And then he'd do the same to us. And the circles would get bigger and bigger.
Until you were reaching the private areas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And how old were you when he was abusing you like this, or really programming you?
My whole life. He did this my whole life. Sometimes he lived with us. Sometimes we lived with him. Sometimes there was a space because he lived out of the state.
And he was doing this to all of the kids?
At least the girls. We don't know about the boys, although we have some.
Is he still alive?
He died a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you tell your mom now as an adult what happened to you as a child with your grandfather?
I told my mom when I was 15 years old.
Okay.
At the time, I thought I was way too old, and I had so much shame.
Yeah.
Because I'd kept it inside for so long. But to me, it was confusing. Your elders always tell you respect your elders.
And do what they say.
Do what they say. Yeah.
And he's your grandpa.
Yeah. How dare you talk to him that way? How dare you snap back like that? But I always knew something was wrong, and I couldn't really articulate it until this time when I was 15 years old, and he exposed himself to me and had me touch him. And
you were 15.
And I was 15, and I went in complete shock like I always do. I'd realized that I was just in this, I had been programmed to just zone out, go up into the ceiling, pretend I didn't know what was going on. And at this time when I was 15, my grandfather actually asked me a very important question. He said, "Is this okay?" And he was playing with my nipple. Wow. And I said, "I have a choice." And I remember I was in the ceiling and I collected myself back into my body. What is he doing?
He's asking you if it's okay for the first time.
And I said no. And that was very empowering, because then I was able to tell my parents.
When from that moment you left the room when he gave you choice, or how did that happen? Was he mad?
He scared me.
That's quite a moment to have with your grandpa.
First, I was a little bit, uneasy, not knowing what to do, of course. And I was like, I'm going to go to bed. And I went into my room and I laid in my bed, and I was just kind of like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And my grandfather comes in and he starts to apologize. I'm so sorry. That won't happen again, stuff like that. And he's like, do you want me to turn off the TV? Because I was doing current events when he decided to do this. And I was like, I saw another out, and I was like, nope, I'm going to go turn off the TV. I'll do that myself. And so I turn off the TV and I keep walking upstairs to my parents' room. And as I'm walking up the stairs, he's chasing me and he starts grabbing at my feet, and I have to run to get up there.
Moment.
Yeah. And so that was the first time.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. That everything came out. And then he was on the news. We went to court. Wow. I was on the news.
Wow.
And everybody, a lot of people started calling in. He did this to me. He did this to me. He was a door-to-door salesman. Wow. And, he would do things while he was selling product. And anyways.
Wow. Okay. That's quite a lot to go through, and then to learn about, as you have to go through the process of exposing who he is.
Yep.
And feeling all of that. Okay, so you then at 35, here it comes all coming up so much at 35.
Yeah, because it was never dealt with. My mom is actually very narcissistic. Okay. That's how she decided to heal with her trauma.
Okay.
And
do you have a relationship with her right now?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We decided to end that relationship.
Is that very hard?
It was mixed feelings because
boundaries.
I grieved for the loss of the mom I always thought that eventually I might have. if that makes any sense. And I started to, as I grew up, I started to see things differently, see the way my mom had handled things. And I realized that my mom had brought my grandfather into our lives over and over and over again because she wanted the truth to come out. So she literally used us as bait. And so
it had happened to her with him all her life.
Yep.
She knew.
She never told my dad, never told any. She told her mom when she was 8, and she told a boyfriend.
But was she shut down? How did her mom respond? And your grandma?
She asked my grandfather and he made excuses. And I think it was just easy for her to put it on the back of her mind. She had all these beliefs, all the manipulations that he, put on her. And she was scared. She thought she'd go to hell if she divorced him, stuff like that.
Wow.
So,
and how did he end up passing?
I don't actually know what did it, but I know he had diabetes and stuff like that. But
did you cut off all communication with him at a certain age, a certain point?
When I was 15, I've never talked to him
ever again. Oh,
no,
wow.
I saw him at court and that's it.
Wow. Did he end up going to jail?
He did. He went to jail for 6 years.
Wow.
Only, but.
And did you end up finding out, like you said, other people came out and were exposed? Anyone in your family that happened to it worse than you got it?
We found some, for example, I have an aunt who passed away when I was 8, and we found some journal entries where he had raped her several times.
Oh, and that was your aunt, so his daughter.
Mm-hmm. His daughter.
Okay, wow. I'm so sorry. And those that are listening that have gone through sexual trauma from family members or not, taking deep breaths in as these emotions might come up and surface, and allowing any emotional processing to happen. Wow, you're very resilient, Mel.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah. Okay, so 35 hits. This is all resurfacing. You're raising 6 kids, and you're like, I need to work through the metabolic dysfunctions of my past still as they come up. So what did you find for yourself in that, and what liberated you?
So first, I found some processing techniques like hypnotherapy, EMDR. I realized that talk therapy is one thing, but there's a whole nother part that you're not getting to unless you do this deep meditation, deep hypnosis, deep subconscious processing. And as I worked through those, I realized that I was making some progress, but I kept hitting this wall. And it wasn't until I found plant medicine, which was something that was like, it felt kind of taboo at first. Something, it's illegal in some parts of the country. And it took some time, but when that door kind of opened up for me, it was amazing for me. It was completely transformational. Helped me to bring up, and this is, all the feelings that had been stuffed down for so long. It wasn't pleasant at all. Come to the surface, and it forces you to work through it, forces you to go through all of what you need to go through, and then oftentimes gives you a little reward at the end. Where one of my very first experiences was receiving the love of God so strongly that I hadn't felt in so long.
Oh, I love that.
I felt this disconnection for years from God. So that was pretty powerful.
And you practice in your religion. So you have a spiritual practice so strong, but being able to connect in a different way and feel the love still so there.
Yes.
So healing.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. And then and when I found you, you were deep diving in 10-day detoxes. You owned 2 colon hydrotherapy beds.
Yes.
You were in such a beautiful transition in business and figuring out so many things with detoxing, your plethora of information and knowledge. And one of the strongest women I know to get through so many things.
Thank you.
And you went to Costa Rica and did a lot of plant medicine work in Costa Rica that helped you rewire your brain. You came home to tell me about that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. So there are methods, modalities, and ways for people to go through their past trauma and actually heal. And there is a way out.
Yes.
Yeah. Very
And
good.
like I said, you need to treat it like it is cancer. That's one of the things that I like to express a lot.
Yeah.
We oftentimes, just think of trauma as something that you just mentally push through and it's over, but it really affects your system in a physical way, a very, very physical way. It affects the stress, the constant chronic PTSD, affects your hypothalamus and your pituitary and pineal glands, which messes up all your hormones in your bodies. It messes up your gut microbiota. Then you're dealing with all these autoimmune diseases, and you actually lose bone density, muscle density, and just all sorts of stuff. And you actually get to the point where you could die.
Yeah.
And I actually got to that point where I was feeling like I am going to die. And I told my spouse several times, I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
Wow.
I literally feel like my body is shutting down. I'm having the hardest time getting out of bed. I can maybe do something for an hour or two, maybe 3 if I separate what I'm doing and give it space, and then I'm done. That's all the energy I have for the day.
Wow.
And I just really felt like it was just all of this chronic, cortisol levels just through the roof, and
Trauma from the past.
not being able to calm myself down. And this happened a lot after foster care stuff, because we had to go to court again, and that brings up more, feelings.
Yeah, the foster children that you tried to help.
Yep.
And had to really, when I met you, we were working through the forgiveness process with one of your foster children and her mother, and the chaos that it brought you of you just trying to help and trying to love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brought up all the stuff because I adopted a narcissistic child. Kind of redoing my relationship with my mom, looking at that again.
Yeah, trying to heal that so much. Okay.
But then I found functional medicine, and that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Because I looked at this whole thing, as a whole picture. If you see a plant that looks sick, has bugs, or the leaves are yellowing, you're going to check the soil, you're going to check the sunlight, you're going to, whatever, trim, maybe get rid of the bugs.
See what's going on.
And we need to do the exact same thing with ourselves, our emotional selves, our mental selves, our spiritual selves, and we call it vital selves, but like what we're doing every day, our habits and how much stress we have. We have to look at every single one of those areas in order to heal from this kind of trauma.
Yeah. It's a lot. You have to feel so safe while doing it. Okay. So do you have a relationship with your dad at all?
Not currently.
No, because of the situation with your mom and the expressions. Okay. Does she try to call you at all or check in on you, or does she know that there's a strong boundary and she also?
Yep. We've blocked her off of all of our phones, and so she doesn't really have the capability to anymore. We had done this cut off relationship with her a couple of times before, and she, cornered us or tried to find us where she knew we would be. But this time she just knows.
Yeah.
So,
okay. That the processes with mom and dad, and when you don't feel safe, it's an interesting thing for the body to have to go through and feel. Okay. Do you feel like that door will ever open up for you again to talk to them, or no?
Not with my mom.
Okay.
I don't think so. If my mom were to pass away before my dad, I might reach out and contact him.
Yeah.
But I don't see a need or to have that relationship.
You just
I don't
know that the boundaries that you need for yourself, it's important and vital for you.
Boundaries are vital.
Yeah. That. Have you had to set major boundaries going through with the foster care or any?
So many boundaries.
Okay.
So many. So, foster care is hard, really, really hard. And when you adopt a child, you see this child as your child. And that's, the hardest place to put boundaries. But we even had to put boundaries along with, my parents and my siblings. We had to put boundaries with this child, and we had to tell her that if she couldn't keep everyone safe in the family, we had made a promise to her to keep her safe and to love her and to give all of her needs, but if she wasn't able to keep everyone else safe, that we had to set a boundary and let her go, which was really, really hard, really hard.
What was the most unsafe thing she did?
She sexually abused my children. She violently abused. She threw a knife that stuck in my daughter's arm. She hid knives all over and threatened to kill us. It was hard.
Good work getting through such a process and still trying to love her in all of it and trying to figure out her way in the world. Good job. That's a lot.
Thank you.
Wow. And you're married. For how long have you've been married to David?
We just celebrated our 20th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that. You guys are, I love you two together. You guys really are a good balance for each other. Was it hard for David when all of this was surfacing when you guys got married? Did he know about your sexual trauma and that
He did.
Okay.
I was not going to be like my mom.
Okay.
So I told him everything up front. And
okay, good.
my dad talked to him, went on a little walk and talked to him. And so he was very, very aware, even to the point of maybe a little bit of detriment, because he had his own trauma from divorce, which I think is very common.
Yeah.
And he got the avoidant attachment disorder. And
through his parents' divorce as a child?
Yeah. And so his way of dealing with me when he felt uncomfortable was to avoid.
Okay.
And then, of course, avoiding when you have so much inside of you and you need that person to love you and you need that person to keep you safe and, like Aaron says, scoop you up.
Yeah, you need someone to scoop you
just need to be scooped up. And they don't get that. They're protecting themselves. And then it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's what happened with me and David, just worse and worse. And I don't
How did you guys find harmony as a couple with the sexual trauma, then his trauma from his parents being divorced? How did you find harmony sexually as a couple?
Well, we're still working on that, but we have come a long way. The biggest thing was that I needed David to change. I needed him to change. I needed to see him to see me differently. I needed him to.
How is he seeing you?
He wanted me to be his perfect trophy wife.
Okay.
That's what he wanted.
Okay.
And when he saw the other parts of me, which I do have dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities disorder, which is on a spectrum.
Yeah.
Mine's not completely, noticeable to everybody, but noticeable to him.
Yeah.
And he would withdraw just at certain times. And I'm just like, I need you to hear for all of me. I need you here for all of this. I need, this needs to be witnessed.
Yes.
And
not only that, also then loved because you still are choosing to love me. So, wow.
Yeah. It got to the point where he threw me in the hospital.
Okay.
My sister had come and visited.
When you say throw me in the hospital, you mean the mental.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where I was just triggered by my sister who had overstayed her welcome and was just taking and doing all the things that my mom would do.
So boundaries setting, again, here's the overcrossing boundaries and you get triggered and then you go into state. Okay.
And I talked to my sister, and this was the last time I really had a conversation with my sister. And I talked to my husband and I was like, I really need to go on a date after that. I really need some time away from the kids, some time away from the house. But he had another agenda, and we went another day and another day and another day. And then finally I was just, all the emotions were coming out, just erupting, bad emotions. Yeah. And he was afraid that I would hurt myself because I'd done that before.
In the past, when you get upset?
One of the main thing that I've done in the past is to just hit my head over and over again because
your own self, nothing else.
Yeah, because it's like a reset or something is kind of how it feels. And so I'm just like I get into these levels of deep, dark emotion, and I don't want to be there. And I do everything I can to backtrack so I can stay in control. And sometimes I just can't. And it comes into this really dark, hard place. And David does not like that place. It doesn't make him feel comfortable, which I understand. And I'd gone through that. But when David steps back at some of these times, I'm able to recollect myself, take a bath, go for a walk. You know, that's what I've done. That's my survival techniques.
You know what to
figure it out. Yeah.
Yes.
But when he tries to control me, which is what happens sometimes, he corners me in a room. He just, you know,
he wants to know what's going on.
Yeah, just gets
He's
really
so upset about it as well.
And so I'd gotten to this point where I was just like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. I've done all the things, you know, everything. I'd gone to Costa Rica. I did the psilocybin. I did all the counseling work, all of everything. And I don't know what to do anymore. Yeah. The counselors keep graduating me.
Yeah.
You know? Then I was just like, I will do whatever you want me to do just to check it off the list. And he says, okay, I think you need to go to the hospital.
Wow.
And I was so, you know, I was completely, I wasn't crying, but I was upset. I was angry at him. And he took me to the hospital. I was like, okay, I'll stay at the hospital. And I stayed at the hospital for 4 days.
But all you needed
was horrible.
A date and
all I needed was a date.
Scooped up.
Yeah, to be scooped up. But what was so great about that experience, what I would not take back, is that I had 2 doctors and 3 counselors tell me that the problem was at home.
Okay, that's not
And that's one of the biggest things one of my biggest messages that I want to share is that you are not the problem. I had a psychologist tell me that 3 things happen when you go through a trauma like this. Either you die physically, you die mentally and go crazy, or you split and you disassociate and you learn to deal and you have these different parts just moving forward and functioning however you can. And then you have to deal with them as they come up.
Yeah. And
that's normal and that's healthy. And so when I was in the hospital, one of the counselors was like, okay, we're going to call your husband and we're going to have this, 3-way call. It's like, okay, great. And he says, David, why did you throw Melonie into the hospital? And he says, well, because this isn't her. This isn't her. I don't know why she's acting this way. And I just don't know why this isn't you. And I'm like, why is this not me? I was raped at 5 years old.
Yeah.
I was raped at 5 years old.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's, all of this is me. Yeah. Every single part, all of this is me.
Good job being able to communicate that to him in that moment.
Thank you.
Look at me. It is me.
Mm-hmm. And then he finally was like, okay. He started doing his own counseling. Wow. He is a different man.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Good work hanging in there.
He's treating me like a queen now, just
good.
Trying to make everything comfortable. And
good.
It took
you guys
a lot.
Are in a good space,
understanding
each other and the traumas you both went through and together moving through.
Which definitely helps with the sexual side, which is where this question started.
So you guys are good, but it's taken a lot.
It's been 20 years of not being able to trust that he got my back, as well as he should have. And so that might take some time still, but we're getting there. We're doing good. Lots better than we ever have.
It sounds like you're deep diving into a bond with each other that's going to be really great. And you're playing the long game.
I believe
that is beautiful work.
Thank you.
To be able to really find each other and say, this is me, this is my trauma, scoop me up anyways, love me anyways, because I know that's what you want to do. And as much as he wants to run from it, he knows that's what he wants as well. So you're just really helping him see that it's okay as he feels his way through the things he's not sure of.
Yeah. Finding his own masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good work. Oh my gosh. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the work that you have done to achieve peace, overall peace in your body and mind amidst of all of the trauma.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah. And I remember I've learned a lot from you and being alongside of you as one of my clients, but you teaching me so much incredible knowledge about the body and detoxing and the beautiful ways that we can let go. And I think we share a similar story because you told me before it takes about 40 colonics, I think is what you told me in the past. You're like, your biggest worms are going to come out around your 40th. And sure enough, yeah, my biggest worms came out around my fourth detox was my biggest detox.
There you go.
Yeah. And so I've just been able to really,
Yeah. And what I've realized with these worms is that they're just like a plant. I love the plant analogies. When you have a zucchini plant, for example, if you let those zucchinis get super huge, like sometimes we like to do because they're fun to show off at the fair or whatever, the plant gets stressed. And when the plant gets stressed, the squash bugs come in and attack. And that's the same that happens with us physically. When we're emotionally stressed, especially chronically, the parasites come in just like the squash bugs, and they feed off of that low energy. We don't have our defenses up like they should be.
Yeah. And being able to rid yourself of all the parasites from the trauma in your life. Tell me how, I feel like I have one of your jars. I feel like I have one of your parasites or something.
Probably.
Yeah. You've had a lot come out.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And a lot through the detox process. And would you say that you found colon hydrotherapy to be one of your biggest physical ways to let go, or what's your best way? Yeah,
physically, yes, totally. I didn't really see a big connection at first. For me, there were these boxes around, physical and spiritual and mental.
Okay.
And I started to realize that my body craved the detox after a really rough time. So if it was the holiday seasons and I was receiving, a lot of triggers, or I was, fighting with David, or whatever, vacations or trips that cause stress on the body and mind, I started to crave these colon hydrotherapies. I craved the detox, the 10-day detox. And as I started to pay attention to that, and I started to learn more and more about frequencies and how everything runs on frequencies, I like to talk about that doctor. I forgot his name, but the one that writes words on bottles and the water molecules change.
He's a Japanese doctor.
He's a Japanese doctor, and I loved what he did. So many years ago, it just stood out to me. And our bodies are like 78% water, and what we're feeling and what we're constantly receiving on an emotional and mental basis is being written in our cells, in our molecules. And really, this detox, this cleansing thing that we do, is on a cellular frequency, on this deep, deep, deep level.
Yes.
And I felt it, and I know that my clients felt it as I started to recognize which of my clients had been through similar traumas, or just had narcissistic parents or something that they had more parasites to get rid of. And as there's also, have you talked to your clients about this book called Your Brain on Parasites?
No.
So good.
Your Brain on Parasites, everybody.
Brain on Parasites.
Okay,
get that book. I can't remember who it's by. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I can get that to you later.
Yeah.
But it is so good. And it talks about how these parasites just hijack your system.
Yeah. Create their own neural pathways.
Yeah, it's so good. Really worth the read.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else. What else we can talk about? Well, you're doing good work as far as trauma releasing. You're hosting retreats for people who have been sexually traumatized that want to learn how to move through their trauma. And tell us a little bit about those.
Okay, so I'm going to be doing retreats for women who have been through this stuff, maybe eventually men as well, but we're starting with women. We're going to do a beta retreat in April, and then a full one in October. But this beta retreat will be like 50% off.
Amazing. What are the dates of that?
That's going to be April 24th through the 27th.
Amazing. In St. George?
In St. George at the Staybridge Suites.
Okay. What's the website if someone wanted to go check that out?
We would like you guys to go to mel.permissiontoheal.org and get on that registration there, and then we will send the information and the discounts. I also just finished recording a book.
Amazing.
This book is unique.
Wow.
Because what we did was kind of similar to this, what we're doing now, this podcasting. I went to Phoenix and I recorded this book through the night. And I just very, like, normally you write a book and then you have the audiobook, but we did the audiobook first, and it was a very amazing experience. I had, begun like 5 different manuscripts and couldn't find a direction. It was overwhelming for me. My life was overwhelming for me. I couldn't figure out how to put all of this information into one book. And so I ended up hiring a coach that I knew for 7 years. And this coach was amazing. Her big thing is story.
What's her name?
Tiffany Largy.
Okay.
And her business is Do the Damn Thing. And I followed her, and she really stood out to me. And she said, the answer to everything in your life is through your story. Ooh. And I was like, okay. Oh,
I love that.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I know I need to tell my story. It's something important. And couldn't figure out how to do it in these manuscripts. And then finally I was like, Tiffany, I need help. I just need to get this out of me. I need to get it out of me and on paper and out, to the world, to whoever needs it. I feel like that's what the last part of my healing is. And she says, okay, let's do it in 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so in 3 weeks, I came up with a really quick outline, which for the most part, we threw out the window anyway.
Yeah.
And we just kind of talked about what really needs to be said. And I just spoke from the heart. And when they thought I was getting in my mind, they would stop me and would be like, cut, and we'd stop and we'd reprocess. If I started to ramble too much, they'd be like, cut.
Were you with her doing it as well?
Oh yeah. She was just, there in the background. Wow. Behind the bright lights. And she would just stop me and tell me, okay, can we encase this in a solution or a story or something like that. And anyways, it was hard. There were days that certain parts of me came out that were, really depressed, and it was really hard and very unconfident. And
were they moments in the story that you were telling that was also a mirror to how you were feeling?
Yeah, there were times I wanted to pedal backwards and just go home. Wow. And one of the other coaches there, he went for a walk with me and just kind of talked me off of that ledge. And that was very, very helpful. And anyways, we got through this process, recorded 6 nights.
Wow.
I had to go back 2 weeks, and there were several days I didn't sleep for more than 2 hours in 2 days.
Mel.
It was intense.
Good work.
Yeah. But anyways, I think it's would be very beneficial for a lot of people because it's real.
Yeah.
And lots of times you're seeing the edited or, the made up version of somebody's trauma. And this is real and vulnerable.
Wow.
And so that book is called Permission to Heal.
Okay.
It's coming out April 1st.
Very good.
And if you sign up on this list, mel.permissiontoheal.org, if you sign up on that, we'll give you a discount and the first chapter of that book.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. You've been getting to work, girl. I love that. It's really important that people hear your message and try to do their own healing through the good work that you're able to offer and help people through. I'm so proud of you.
You too, Erin.
Thank you. Okay. And a big retreat is October. October, what are those dates?
October 23rd through the 26th, also in St. George at the State Bridge Suites.
Okay. Beautiful. And if anybody else wants to get a hold of you, can they find you on Instagram? Or do they just go to your website? We
haven't made the Instagram yet. Okay. You could get on my Facebook. It's Melonie Packer, Melonie Packer. And my YouTube channel is at Melonie Packer 4700.
Beautiful. Thanks for being on my podcast. It's such an honor
Erin.
to have you. And I love you.
I love you too. So much.
And everyone who joined us, thank you so much for being here and listening. If you want to find Mel, please go to her website. If you need healing from sexual trauma, she is a good source of loving awareness to do that. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Okay.